Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm so honored to be with you. Welcome to this week's Community Circle. Our focus today is on soul embodiment and world peace. And I'm excited to explore the connection between these two with you so that you can understand that pathway between exploring inner peace and how to uncover that actually fairly quickly. Whoops. I'm getting a delay back on my screen here. My apologies. In any case, so you can understand the relationship between that inner exploration, how to come to that experience of inner peace fairly quickly, actually, and then how to integrate that as a practice into your everyday life, and then how that influences the collective experience of peace. Feels like a timely topic to me. I'm glad you're here, excited to join with you. I want to welcome everyone who's participating live, as well as those of you who are participating on the replay. We'll get started initially with some meditation, and then I'll share with you, do a little bit of teaching. We'll have some interaction. For those of you who are on the live stream, if you'd like to interact with me, whether it's just saying hi, asking a question about this, or really anything that's going on that you're interested in my perspective on. And then we're actually going to do some soul embodiment together and close with an embodiment transmission today. Okay, before we do anything else, let's do this. Let's gather in our beautiful circle energetically to start. And that involves a couple of simple things. First of all, just set everything else aside, energetically, emotionally, physically, and otherwise. And it's really important not to be driving a motor vehicle or operating heavy equipment, because you never know what's going to happen. And specifically, one of the things that takes place when people sit together with me is some people have an experience of going to sleep. I don't think they're actually going to sleep. I think what's actually happening is dropping in to do some very deep work in consciousness. But whatever it is, it's not safe to drive a car or operate heavy equipment. So if you're doing that right now, please stop. Beyond that, if it's comfortable for you, I invite you to close your eyes, begin breathing in and out through your nostrils with your palms to the sky. It's a wonderful receiving position. And let's do a little bit of breathing together, and then we'll open up into meditation together. And I can't wait to see where this goes. And already Yanya is checking in from Switzerland. It's wonderful to be with you, Yanya. Peace to you as well. And welcome to everyone who's here. Let's take a deep breath in and hold. And as you begin releasing this breath now, just let go of everything that has come before in this day. And as you do, as you breathe out, you might just consciously focus on all the stuff that felt dissonant, that you're ready to let go of for sure, and all the stuff that felt resonant. I just invite you to let go of that as well. And the idea here is that we open up to a more complete experience of the divine within by letting go of these attachments, breathing all the way out to the count of 8. And then let's do another deep breath in and hold. And as you begin releasing this breath now, letting go of everything that has come before since you were born. And with this breath, just really invite you to let go of those feelings that have been dominant, the emotions, the charge. Could be around things that are dissonant. Probably we're all ready to let go of those, but also maybe the experiences of resonance that have been really positive and kind of maybe even supporting you where you're at right now. I just invite you to let go of them as well, because when you do that, you make way for a more complete experience and expression of divine resonance, all the way out to the count of 8. And another deep breath in and hold. And as you begin releasing this breath now, letting go of everything that has come before since since the inception of your soul, all the way out to the count of 8. And with this, the dominant way of being that has been expressing, resonant or dissonant, again, opening up more fully to experience the divine within. All the way out to the count of 8. Oftentimes, when we let go of stuff to the divine, when we breathe out or we go through some process of surrender in our lives, we're letting go to the God we think we know. I know this about God. I know this about the divine. The divine would never do this. Something better's coming. When we're releasing breath, when you're letting go, I really invite you, if you're ready to let go of these things to the divine you don't know, to the divine mystery, the unknowable divine. What it does is it ensures that release is done without any attachment. There's no connection to what comes next. It really is an opening. It's like taking an eraser on the chalkboard of your life and your being and your expression and just erasing everything you think you know about yourself and saying, okay, source, God, whatever name you use, nameless one, come express more fully. And when there are no attachments, something truly extraordinary can begin to express. But if we have an attachment to what that extraordinary expression is, then it opens an opportunity for suffering. I think I should be going this way, but here's what's unfolding. There's a gap between these two. Things aren't working out the right way. It's not really a pathway to peace, is it? It's a pathway to suffering, to challenge, to upset. So, as we're moving into this embodiment practice today, as we open into some meditation here in just a moment, I invite you to sort of be with that in the surface, but also underneath as you begin opening up to the stuff that's been just beneath the surface for you. And see if you can let go of your attachment or your idea of how things should be on whatever level you're holding in your awareness. Could be in your body, in your health, how you're feeling emotionally, what's going on in your life, in your family, in your community, in the country, in the world. Could be politics, could be the pandemic, could be anything, right? If you just let go of how that's all supposed to fit together the way you think it fits together, your insights, I'm not trying to diminish your insights. I'm simply saying just let go of them. Open up to a more complete experience of your wholeness, of that innate expression of divinity called you, your ideas, your being presence, and so on. Okay. Still with your eyes closed. Become aware of that cue of breath in front of your face. These units of breath are there to serve you and you alone. And they come into your nostrils as you breathe in, if you're breathing in through your nostrils, without any condition or criteria. There's no checklist. There's nothing you have to be or have done or not done for that breath to come in and support and serve you. And notice the minute you breathe that unit of breath in, another one joins the queue. And so there's always several units of breath in the queue. You might even notice, and maybe this is with your imagination, or maybe it's presenting itself intuitively or just blossoming in your awareness, a color in that cue of breath. If you're imagining it, maybe pick a color not normally present in the body except perhaps in the eyes. And as that color begins to infuse itself through the entire cue, be it a static color that's fixed or dynamic, one that's changing and expressing in many different ways. With your next breath, I invite you to be with the breath from the perspective of the color as it flows in, nostrils, up to the crown, and then down into the lungs. And as you sit in the lungs, in your mind's eye, in that perspective, and continue breathing, perhaps even moving time forward just a little bit initially and then a little bit more as that becomes comfortable for you. Notice how that color begins to infuse itself into the inner lining of the lungs and then moves into the bloodstream and then into each and every cell in your body. And there's a simple conclusion. I'll make this statement here in just a moment. I invite you to be aware of the various expressions of resonance or possibly dissonance throughout your body, your being, your awareness, intuitively, visually, rationally, and otherwise. The breath is becoming you, and you are becoming the breath. Just sit in the interior of your experience. Maybe there's some buzzing or tingling going on, or in your mind. Well, sure, oxygen, lungs, bloodstream, cells in the body, breath is becoming me, I'm becoming the breath. Perhaps you see it intuitively or can imagine that color infusing itself into every cell of your body. The breath is becoming you, and you are becoming the breath. And when you're ready, and in a very gentle transition from inside the lungs now to looking down on the entire planet, notice the breath of the planet is supporting you very personally, right? The breath of the planet, that cue of breath that serves you, draws from the breath of the planet. And so it is with your neighbor and your neighbor's neighbor, and so on. And we could even say that by your breath, you are connected to each of these people, whether you know them or not, right? The breath you breathe is the breath they are breathing, the breath of the planet. And there is a connection there. And we can allow that awareness to spread out, not just from your neighborhood, but throughout your entire community, the region, perhaps it's your country or the continent or the hemisphere, or even eventually the entire planet. With each breath, you are connected directly to each and every person. The breath is just one of the ways that we can perceive that connection. It's a connection that appears to exist outside of us, the breath of the planet serving you and every person on the planet. And notice that the breath isn't bringing with it someone else's challenges or struggles or successes or their opinions or perspectives. You don't have to agree with them politically or socially or on any level, spiritually. Other people drawing from the breath of the planet, the same as you. And just as with you, the breath is becoming all of these people, and these people are becoming all of this breath. And it's not just people that the breath of the planet is serving, it's also the animals and the insects and the trees and the rocks and the dirt, the water and the fish, everything. With each breath, you are connected to everyone and everything above, upon, and within the planet itself. Indeed, we could say you are breathing by and for and of the planet. You may even have a sensation perhaps similar to the sensation that came up. The breath is becoming you and you are becoming the breath. Perhaps it's an expanded sensation. You may even become aware that you're breathing through every pore in your body. Your entire body is becoming more and more resonant. And you may be wondering, what is he talking about? I don't feel anything. Whatever is going on for you is perfect. There's no right way, no wrong way. Whatever is unfolding is perfect. And notice how the breath of the planet becomes the breath of the cosmos. For with each breath, you are connected not just to everything that is served by the breath of our planet, but at the very edge of our atmosphere, that breath, that air, that oxygen connects and touches every part of space eventually. And so we can say with each breath, you are connected to everyone and everything throughout all of creation, including that energy that underwrites everything, the divine, a light, perhaps that you can perceive initially way far away on the other side of the cosmos. But notice with each breath that you draw in, it draws closer to you, eventually close enough that you can perceive those twin frequencies that together comprise and express as that divine light. The frequency of the divine itself and the frequency of perfect health intertwined such that there is no separating one from the other. It's not just perfect health as we understand it as human beings, physically, emotionally, spiritually, or otherwise. It's every iteration, known and unknown. These two foundational expressions of divine presence as this light. Eventually, the light coming close enough that it connects in, perhaps initially at your nostrils and then instantaneously throughout every level of your being, known and unknown. Each of the smallest parts of you, this invitation extended. Come return to your natural state of alignment and resonance. And with that, you may even feel these artifacts of dissonance beginning to fall away and gather at that universal drain. For whatever remains in separation, I invite you to remove the universal plug. I'll do the same. The divine is becoming you, and you are becoming the divine. Let's begin. One of the things I love about Divine Connecting Brother, I just want to say hi to those that are checking in. Judy is checking in, and Gary is checking in. It's wonderful to be with the two of you and everyone who's tuning in. If you're on the cast here live, I invite you to comment. Let's see if I can point. Well, it's this way. The comments are over here. Would love for you to interact there. If you want to say hi, ask a question, and so on. I think on Twitter, it's below. Those are the two places where this is happening live right now. And if you're on replay, you can also comment, and I look forward to interacting with you through the comments on the replay as well. It's always such a joy for me to see the components of Divine Connecting Breath coming together and to feel that resonance flowing throughout my being. In the case where we're sitting together in a circle, I have this sense that I am receiving this feedback from the collective, from the circle that is sitting here together as we explore today. Our focus, of course, is on soul embodiment and peace and inner peace, but we could talk about anything that's going on for you. I'm happy to explore whatever topic is up for you. I do want to share just a little bit about this topic, and I can see some other folks are checking in. Catherine is saying hi from Trinidad and Tobago, not on social media much anymore. So glad I saw you come on. Yay, I'm glad you're here. I'm not on much myself either. JR is checking in. Good afternoon to you, JR. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for participating. If we think about this concept of inner peace, and I actually have my sketch pad set up, so maybe it's time to draw a picture here. But I just want to see if I can convey this without any pictures for just a moment. the question in my mind, if we just try to distill the conversation down to its essence, I think it can lead to clarity pretty quickly, right? We can have inner peace at the level of the mind, a calm or peaceful mind. I think we all have some understanding of what that means. It's probably different. Each of us have a different experience of a peaceful mind. Or we can think about the heart or the emotions, right? What would it mean to be in a peaceful state emotionally? And then there's another level, the level of being, where we're in the hips. And in the hips, I think, again, maybe, and this may be a little bit harder to convey with words, but I still have the sense you probably know what I'm talking about, a peace in your being. That is to say, a peace that arises in a way that isn't really connected directly to your emotions, yet it influences and informs your emotions because the piece is just resonating in such a beautiful way. The heart begins to resonate in this piece as well. And it's not really originating from the mind either, though, as the heart begins and emotions begin to resonate in this piece, so too the mind begins feeling this piece and experiencing this piece. But the source of it originates in a place not from thinking or feeling, but from a place of being. And the source of it, at least in my language, is coming from an experience of the embodied divine. What I mean by that is the experience of the divine within your being. And one way to talk about that is to explore this concept as a function of soul embodiment. And by soul, I mean individuated expression or essence. Some may refer to it as spirit. That is to say, the soul, as it descends, as it embodies, it comes down from the crown. And when it's home in the body, it's all the way down in the hips. And we could talk more about why I believe that's true or how I've come to that conclusion and so on, if that's of interest to you. But at least for our summary, for the overview, for just the introduction of this idea, let's just say that's true right now. Happy to explore whatever depth you want to, why I believe that's true. But let's just say for now it's true. And let's say it's possible for anyone and everyone, including you, including that person you're thinking of, but you're wondering, could they ever feel peace? Or there's somebody I disagree with so comprehensively, there's no way they're going to be able to open up to this experience of divine presence. Yes, even them. Even examples from history, people who have been labeled as evil or fundamentally flawed or broken, or all the ways that linguistically we try to slap these labels of separation on one another or on ourselves to feel disconnected from those parts of us that don't feel so loving and kind. Even all of those aspects are available to us to experience in this deep embodied resonance. And so as the soul comes down into our being, it enlivens every aspect of us. All those things that are real, and by that I mean all those things that are expressions or a function, artifacts of being undistorted expressions and extensions of the divine, and also all those aspects that are, let's say, artifacts of separation or a function of that experience that we have, which I believe is really a direct gift from God. In fact, maybe the most profound gift that God has given us, the illusion of separation, those artifacts that arise in separation within us, either from our thinking or the experiences we have in our lives or our feelings, where we feel disconnected from ourselves, from one another, and most fundamentally, perhaps, disconnected from the divine by whatever name. And so as the soul descends, it enlivens all these parts of us, all these aspects. And if we allow ourselves to feel all the stuff that's coming up, which might be really amazing, wonderful stuff, but also some pain, some wounds, some sadness, some grief, who knows what it is. We don't want to create drama around it. I'm just saying there is a whole range of emotions that can come up. As you feel those things, they are transmuted and the soul continues to descend. Now, you may be wondering, how do I embody the soul, Ken? What do we have to do? Is there some magic trick? No. In fact, the soul wants to come home all the way into the hips. When it's in the hips, it's home. And so it's naturally in the process of coming down and embodying all the time, unless and until it encounters traumatic dynamic, either from what's unfolding now or from what is being enlivened from some earlier traumatic experience or wound or trauma. And there's so much more that I can say about the mechanics of this, but rather than getting into the mechanics, I just want to try to point to some basic truth that I've experienced and I've witnessed in a great many other people. And that is when we embody, when we come all the way home into the hips, when the soul comes all the way home, one of the things that happens is that we become completely present. It's like everything else disappears. And with that presence floods in what we could call the peace of God. And it doesn't flood in because we're holding an intention or because we're repeating a mantra or because we're trying to hold a feeling of being in a positive space. And I'm not trying to trash on these things. I'm simply saying it is not required. In fact, if you try to do that when you're in embodied state, you'll disembody. You're so there's a tension there because in the being state, you don't have to be thinking about it. You don't even have to be feeling it. These things become subordinate, secondary, or tertiary to the primary experience of being completely present. And in that present dynamic, that peace begins opening up and flooding throughout your being. I can feel it right now. Opening up and flooding through every part of your being. And you don't have to push it. You don't have to cause it to be directed a certain way. It doesn't have to go somewhere because it's everywhere. It's like saying, God's here, but not here. God's in this part of my body, but not over here. So I need to send that resonance over here. No, the divine is everywhere. Or the divine is in this person, but not in that person. Or in this part of the planet, but not in that part of the planet. Or this part of the cosmos, but not in that part. And in my experience, that's simply not the case. There might be a lot of artifacts of separation that are loaded up in my experience of life or in yours or in that other person's or this group, or there may have been challenges that you've encountered or challenges you've created for other people, all from my perspective, artifacts of separation. Still, the divine is here within us all. And this experience of peace is available. And when we sink into it, when we open up to it, it simply floods into every part of us, not just into our being presence, but also into our felt experience and also into our thinking experience. It's as if the burden of having to try to manage our lives falls away. And instead, we get to experience something that perhaps has been elusive in life to this point, something you've sought, that you were seeking, but never actually experienced. You can actually experience and then begin integrating and embodying. And as that takes place, because we are all truly an aspect and an expression of the divine, as with you, it is with the whole. This is an area that's so easy to get caught up in. Well, I've got it together. I'm experiencing resonance. We think, I'm now going to send it over to that person, but we don't need to do that. We could just be in the experience of resonance. And as you are in that space, those that are around you are enlivened as well. And we also have this idea that we're going to have this homogenous experience. Everyone's going to have the same thing. We're all going to believe the same thing. Nothing could be further from the truth. If I held out a color swatch, I don't have anything. Maybe just this right. This shirt that I'm wearing, and I ask, I say, let's have a discussion. What color is this shirt? Right? Some people are going to say, I don't even know what color it is. I guess it looks like it's kind of blue here. I don't know, but it's an expression of blue, let's say. And so let's say everyone finally agrees. Okay, Ken, it's a blue shirt. Then I ask, okay, well, what kind of blue is it? It's going to be very difficult for everyone to perceive it the same. Some people's monitors are tuned a certain way, the camera's set up a certain way, the internet connection, blah, 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 blah. Let's say we're all sitting in person. We're all looking at it. The lighting's the same. Everyone's eyeballs are looking at it. There's no filter in between. Still, we're going to have a hard time agreeing on the color because you've had your experience and the color experiences you've had in your life. Plus, you have your own central nervous system you perceive. And that's just the color of the shirt. It's not even anything to do with divine presence or what the divine is saying or expressing through you or so on. So the point I'm trying to make is this experience of divine presence, it's different for every person. What is the divine whispering in your ear? What is that call on your life? It's different for all of us. What is the divine expression through you? It's different. Maybe it's unique through all of us. God's expression as me, very different than God's expression as you. I can tell you my personality, I'm sure, is very different from yours. And I've been learning how to fall in love with that personality my whole life. Still working on it in some cases, right? Maybe you figured that out, but there's something else for you. Or you still experience separation as a function of, I don't know, something you did in your life or something that was done to you. Do you see? When we sit into this experience of resonance, what flows, this peace that originates beyond the mind, beyond the heart, in the core of your being, not as an artifact of something that you did, but something as a function of God's expression as you. That expression, that's the source of this peace, if you want to call it that. This resonance, this expression of divine presence, that is the enlivening presence. And it becomes this and this and this expression, and this person has their expression, and over time this resonance spreads and expands. It becomes something beyond anything we can imagine, but not because our imaginings helped create it. It becomes something beyond that because we are opening up to an experience of who we really are, who you really are, as an individual expression and experience, and also collectively. Okay, let me take a breath here. I see a few more people checking in. Gary's checking in again. Susan is, I love that Susan is sharing. I'm finding it difficult to make sense of your words. I'm feeling too spaced out. It's as if I have to go into dissonance to understand your explanation. I love that you are sharing this, Susan. Let go of my words. My words do not matter. The thing we're really doing here is sitting together in resonance. The divine in me, the divine in you are enlivened together. It is not a function of the words. And the words, however inspired I might be to share them, are simply placeholders up here for the being and below, the existence, that experience that is happening underneath everything else. So if you're feeling called into that space and you can't understand what I'm saying, awesome. Stay with that. That's much more important than anything I could say. And if somebody else is having an experience of, I don't even know that you're talking, it's like drums are beating in the background, perfect. And somebody else might be thinking, what? What are they talking about? All I hear are words, and I sort of get what he's saying, but not really. Someone else might be saying, I understand everything he's saying. I don't feel anything. Just be with your own experience. The words do not matter. I am so clear about this. And listen, it's just my impression. It's just what I am aware of right now. And yet I feel I have tremendous clarity. I feel like my purpose, my divine mission is to support others in having a deeper experience of divinity, the divine within, and ultimately the divine expression as them in their mission as an embodied messenger. That's what I think I'm doing. And that's not about giving you the message you're supposed to share. It's not about telling you what God is trying to say to you. It's not about saying, oh, wait, I need to tell you. God's telling me Spirit says I need to share this. No, I would love to support you in opening up and deepening your relationship with divinity by whatever name that you might open to that message directly for yourself. There's no one better to hear God's message through you, for you, as you, than you, for you to uncover that for yourself. So, Susan and anyone else who's having that experience, let it go. Let the words go. They don't matter. The words can be a bridge between an experience of separation and an experience of wholeness. But in wholeness, what is there to say? Really, what can we talk about in wholeness? Words just disappear. And in that journey, as we drop away from the importance of understanding or getting it right or having language that makes sense, and we move from thinking to feeling into being, there it is. Susan says, here, here. Carly says, or Carolee, excuse me, says, Ken, what you wrote today was pure truth. To be or not to be is the only question. The essence of all has no separation. Love and light for all. Yeah, if you're not on my email list right now, is it Carolee? I apologize if I'm not saying your name right. What Carolee's referring to is an email I send out usually every Wednesday. Some weeks I don't send one out, but from my heart. And if you'd like to receive that, you can do so at my website. There's actually a link in the description. I'm not going to even try to get to my brain to figure out what the URL is. It's in the description. You just click the link and then put your name and email address, and it's free. You can be part of that. Thank you for being here, Carrie Lee, and for speaking your truth. As we embody, we shift from the separation, the separate default of the mind, and the separate default of feelings. Separation of thinking is different. That's usually a disempowered dynamic. In the feeling, it's usually an empowered dynamic. It's the greed or the desire expression. I am going to make this as I want it to be. And when we come into the being state, it's not that feelings or thinking aren't existing anymore, but they are in support, in service to being. And in this embodied state, this profound resonance begins to express. And we don't lose ourselves there. We find ourselves. We shift from seekers to beers, to experiencers, to from a place of pursuing resonance to a place of resonating, being the embodied expression of divine resonance, not because we reached out and grabbed it and pulled it down, but because we opened up and allowed it to express in, through, and as us. I can't remember if it was a dream I had last night or a conversation I had yesterday or something that occurred in meditation. But I remember I spoke these words. I didn't set out to do this. This isn't what I thought I was going to do with my life. I thought I was a mortgage lender. I thought I was a financial strategist. And then everything changed, and it didn't change because I tried to create something in my life. It changed because I just kept opening up to something that made no sense at all rationally, that didn't fit at all, but it resonated at such a deep level. And here I am, 12, 13 years later. This is who I really am. But, 13 years ago, I would have told you, oh no, my calling in life is to support people in their financial strategy. And if you said to me, well, what's the spiritual component of that? I would have said, well, there isn't a spiritual component to that. It's not appropriate to talk to people when discussing finance about spirituality. And now I think, no, experience, witness, feel, deeply resonate with this truth. Underneath everything else is spirituality. Underneath everything else is the divine. Underneath everything else is this peace. And when we open to it, everything else shifts. everything else in ways we don't know about. We don't know what will happen when we open to it. We only know that we're in a state of alignment and resonance. It's a congruent dynamic. There's a flow, there's an expression that moves through us and in us and as us, not just in each of us individually, but also collectively. It's the difference between a person who's trying to get their body to cooperate and work together and someone who is dancing as their soul would express, or a person who's trying to vocalize versus someone who is allowing the song of their soul to be emitted. It's a profound shift. And still, you are there. We are there. We are all there. All right, I just want to check in one last shot here. I don't see any other comments coming in. I want to do some soul embodiment together today. And this is how I'd like to focus our transmission. And I'm just going to make reference to the traditional chakras. The seventh is on the crown, and the sixth, and the fifth, and the fourth, and so on. But really, they're just references. Embodiment isn't focused around the chakras; that it's included in it, right? But it's the totality of your being presence. The soul is embodying, integrating with every part of you, not just these energetic centers. They're a nice reference point. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it doesn't matter. The words don't matter at all. Even the numbers that I'm going to call out, it doesn't matter. Just be with the experience as I support us in a deeper experience of embodiment. Deep breath in and hold. And as you release this breath, let go of everything that I've said, everything that's resonated, everything that has rubbed you the wrong way and felt like dissonance since we began a few moments ago. I just open into the interior experience and whatever comes up as you do. 7, 6, 'When we disembody, the soul moves upwards from the hips up towards the top of the head. Inevitably, you've seen people that are in a substantially disembodied state. If you find someone or see somebody in their eyes, maybe they're in advanced treatment for cancer or they've been off to war and come back, there's that hollow, empty look as if the light has gone out of their eyes and their soul is disembodied above the eyes. Everyone has some experience of that on some level. It doesn't require a special intuitive insight or anything like that. That's an example of the outward expression of this inward process that we're supporting. I also want to say that in truth, we are all fully embodied all the time. It's only in separation that we experience ourselves as disembodied. But it's in separation that we do all the work. It's in separation that we perceive there's a journey. In wholeness, there is only the being expression of divine resonance. 5, 4. If you run into some dissonance, if you have some constriction coming up, could be in the chest or in other parts of the body, it doesn't necessarily correlate to where we're doing embodiment work. Don't try to push against it. Don't try to resist it. If you're willing to, I really invite you to feel it fully. Don't try to breathe through it or push it out of you or anything like that. It's just an experience of yourself before everything comes into a state of alignment. And you will. You are. So no need to be impatient with that or hurry it along. Something important is unfolding now, whatever it is. There we go. 4. Beautiful. Beautiful. 3. 3. 2. It might be that for all that is being enlivened right now, that what the dominant experience is one of dissonance enlivened. And if that's the case for you, you've done nothing wrong. There's nothing bad happening and nothing unfortunate or to be avoided here at all. It's just aspects that are held in separation right now, unresolved traumas or wounds, if you want to think of it that way. And the invitation, the opportunity is just to feel fully whatever's coming up. And if this is your first experience with me, you might be wondering, well, this is pretty weird. I'm watching a replay of this guy on YouTube and he's calling out numbers and there's all this stuff going on in my body. What is happening here? The best explanation I can give for you is that the way that God expresses through me in transmission is that the divine in you is enlivened. And I have lots of different ways of trying to describe or explain what's happening, and spiritual practices that have been given to me and so on, that I'm excited to share, would love to share with you. It's an honor to sit with you and share this gift that God expresses through me with you. At the end of the day, it's an unknowable experience. I think I would be um, making it up if I said I understood it all. I don't really understand it. My hands and feet are buzzing and tingling, and I can tell things are happening in the collective. I don't have any experience of the individuals who are sitting here having this experience. I have an experience of the collective, of everyone who will ever have this experience of this recording of this session. And I know that it's a live transmission, but not between me and you, between you and the divine within. Somehow I get to witness and support and facilitate that. And that is very much God's expression. It's not something that I'm doing or that I can somehow claim responsibility for. And I wouldn't want to. It's really you and your relationship with the divine. If you've if we've sat together in circle over the last number of years or all the way back to the beginning, you've probably heard me say this before, and maybe you're not hearing anything right now. It's just this deep interior experience. Whatever's unfolding for you is perfect. I trust it deeply because it is something that originates in you It's an enlivenment of the divine in you. And so what I trust is that what is needed for you to support you in your life, in your journey right now, is exactly what's happening for you. And if you're thinking, well, oh, I wish I could ask a question now, just tune into the next weekly circle and ask it then, or drop an email and ask it there, and I'll be sure to address it. I'm, yeah, really grateful, really honored to have this opportunity to sit with you. And it's a constant miracle to me that this is how God expresses through me. And so I want to acknowledge that. And I also want to acknowledge you for taking that chance. Maybe a friend said, check this out, or you were just on YouTube and somehow this came up. I don't know how these things happen. I think it's all the divine. The divine as the algorithm on YouTube, the divine is your friends, the divine is me. We are all that undistorted expression of the divine. That's what we're opening to. The peace that underlies everything else, too. One. Hmm. Beautiful. Hmm. Amazing. When you were born, one of the first things you did after you were born was to breathe in, to receive. And when you die, one of the last things that you'll do is to exhale. And whether you have let go of control before that last exhalation or not is really up to you. But after that last breath, without a doubt, your separate self, the one who thinks it's in charge or who used to think it was in charge, but if it's still thinking it's in charge after that last breath, will come to a place eventually where it will say, I guess I'm not in charge. I'm not in control. I have to let go of control. No breath comes after this. And when that happens, there is a tremendous opening. Something extraordinary begins to happen. You can have that experience now. You breathe in, you receive just as you did on the day you were born. And when you're ready, you can release that breath fully, just as you will right before you drop the body. But you can do it now. You can receive anew an experience of the divine, and you can release everything to the divine. And then receive anew. And rather than this movement, it can be a circle, releasing and receiving. Just like the peace that underlies everything else in your embodied being presence. It is not a line with a beginning or an end or an edge. It is a circle with no beginning and no end. And in that circle, it is replicated in all of us. Your relationship with that presence is unique to you, and only you can say what it is for you. No one else has a better sense of that for you than you do for yourself. And in this embodied space, that relationship has room to expand. It has room for you to explore it, to open up more fully, and eventually to consciously express that being presence in your interactions with others, to be aware of that peace, that presence, that resonance that is within you and enlivens within others in whatever ways you interact with other people, in your family, in your community, in our world. When you're ready, I invite you to begin returning the universal plug. I'll do the same as I begin bringing this transmission to a close. What an honor it is to sit with you, to explore with, but most especially without words, to sit in that resonance that underlies everything else. If you'd like to go deeper with this experience, there are a couple of easy ways to do that. Links in the description for the Resonance Community, which is a once a month live transmission, audio only. We sit together as a community. There's also a virtual workshop series called The Deep Dive. Number 12 happens tomorrow. If you'd like to be part of number 12 and upcoming deep dives, you can also check that out. That's live. It's video and audio. We'll sit together for probably 3 or 4 hours tomorrow. The focus is on self-care for the embodied messenger. It's always an amazing conversation that takes place, amazing exploration, and so on. And we'll gather this Saturday for a bonus Q&A and interactive exploration as part of the deep dive as well. If either of those resonate with you, really invite you to be part of those circles. If you haven't already, I invite you to subscribe to the channel here. And if this content resonates with you, please do give it a thumbs up. That always makes a difference in whether or not YouTube chooses to share this with other people randomly who look and search and behave as you do. Would surely appreciate those bits of support if it resonates with you. And if there are other questions, I'd love to respond to them. Oh, there are some additional questions. There are questions coming in from somebody on Twitter. Santosh, can you see my chat? I can. Here it is. I can. Your eyes are closed. They were. We were in transmission. You are saying pure thought, but not communication is always good. No, I'm saying pure being. Being in pure being presence is always good. It leads to pure thought, but underneath that is being presence. Are we the creator of this universe? It's a great question. Well, here is the answer. In different stages of consciousness, yes. Ultimately, we are, of course, one with the divine, who is the creator of the universe. And the question is, do we see ourselves as separate or as one and whole? And the answer to that question is the answer to your question. Many people have an experience in separation, and the empowered separate self says, I am the creator of the entire universe. And then the glass ceiling comes up, and there's an opening, a surrender, a letting go. And then we come into an experience of our wholeness. We realize, I am a servant. I am God's servant. Through me and through us all, the divine expresses in the world. The divine is the creator. And still later, we come into an experience of I am, where this and any question with language fades away. And there is only being and the existence underneath it through which the being comes into form. Thank you for your question, Santosh. It's an honor to be with you and everyone else here. I'll stay on the line for just a bit if there are any further questions, but for now, so grateful for the chance to connect with you. Thank you for the opportunity. Much love and peace to you. And until we're together again soon, I'm sure. Bye for now.